Welcome to PlotLines, where we'll use our over 30 years of experience in real estate communications to uncover the real stories behind real estate. I'm Heather Crowell.
And I'm Britni Acriveau. Dive in with us as we invite guests to break down the ever-changing landscapes of real estate together.
Welcome back to PlotLines, everyone. Today we're here with Amit Egan Datwani. Amit, thanks so much for joining us. You are the founder and chief consultant of the global consulting organization. We would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your journey into this role and kind of what you guys do.
Thank you both for having me. It's great to connect with you. Global Consulting Organization, it's a project starting firm that's visioning, branding, and marketing the neighborhoods, communities, and cities of the future. And just like most journeys, to get here, it's been quite the roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even what we're going through right now is very much a roller coaster ride. I started my career in the fashion business, actually,
Oh, wow.
out of school. Yeah, I did a quick stint in real estate for about 6 months, then had an opportunity to start a women's casual sportswear company, and also got involved in a men's casual sportswear company and did that for close to 10 years. And then when we had the great economic crisis in 2008 and 2009, had a little bit of a change and detour and another roller coaster ride that started. And that ended up with me getting into real estate. And I worked as a broker. I also worked in a family company to learn the ropes, learn a new industry, and of course, build up my network and pipeline as a broker to break into the new industry.
Yeah.
In 2014, I started the Global Consulting Organization, and I was working with high net worth individuals, families, as well as family offices.
Okay.
And I've been doing that now for about 10 years. And then over the past 5 years after the pandemic, pivoted slightly. And now instead of doing primarily brokerage work, we work as consultants to developers, investment funds, and family offices.
Okay.
Wow, interesting
Yeah.
journey. I don't think we've had anyone join yet who started in fashion. So that's definitely a first. But wonderful. We're so glad to have you. As you know, the whole premise around PlotLines is talking about headlines in the real estate space and giving our guests the opportunity to weigh in on them. So we know that you do a lot of work in the office space, and there's no shortage of headlines in the office sector. Things like Newsday recently saying employers say, get back to the office, then please go. Bosses are calling workers back to the office. That's good news for landlords. So that's a more positive headline. But we want to get your take on it. What is your viewpoint on the narratives that exist in the office market? And what are you seeing out there?
I look at this from a perspective that may be a little bit out of left field. If I'm doing my job right, usually when I provide my guidance to clients, they look at me like I have 10 heads. And when I get that look, I know I'm on the right path. So I'll give you the 30,000 foot view on how I've taken all this.
Perfect.
What I saw in the pandemic was that it was a great opportunity for us as humans to shift our consciousness. And when I say that, what I mean is that our understanding about the importance of the office has completely changed because we as humans have changed.
Yeah.
That change was drastic, and it's been ongoing and continually evolving.
Right.
And what's happened is human consciousness has expanded and we have greater awareness, but the built environment has not.
Yeah.
And because of that, we're now in this situation where we have a built environment that's primarily made up. If you look at the downtown cities, at least in the tier one cities, for the most part, they're made up of about 60 to 70% office space.
Yeah.
that's too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Turns
you're
out.
seeing in these headlines is that great indication that we have too much office space in our downtowns.
Yeah.
And this has to change. So I don't look at it as a crisis as of yet. I think it could become a potential crisis if we don't take this and use it as a great opportunity to completely transform the built environment.
Sure. Okay.
And that's the opportunity that I feel we're presented with at this present moment.
Okay. So okay, it's not a crisis yet. And you're sort of living in a world where you get to imagine that city of the future, the buildings of the future. How do we overcome that potential crisis? Like what are those solutions that that maybe people aren't thinking about or seeing right now?
I think it's multi-pronged, and it's an extremely challenging situation because we're in an industry, commercial real estate, where the C word, change, is not welcome. Is definitely not welcome.
It's slow adoption.
It's extremely. That's a nice politically savvy way of saying it.
Yeah.
And we, at this point in commercial real estate, have no choice. And sometimes that's the greatest way to change, when you have no choice. And unfortunately, we're in a situation right now where we have a lot of our office buildings. I do a lot of work in New York City, so I'm going to focus on New York City for today's conversation. We have a situation in New York City where we even see some of our clients that are families that have held some of their properties for decades, if not a couple generations, selling their properties, which is unheard of with some of these families. Some of these families have held these properties through 3 generations, and they've gotten to a point where they've purchased these properties for an extremely low number, in some cases $40, $50 a foot, which in New York City is unheard of.
Right.
And then you're faced with a situation where you realize you have to spend tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to make this a financially viable asset in your portfolio.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's better to just give the keys back to a bank if you have a loan on it.
Yeah.
Or you hold it if you can. Or the other alternative is see what the opportunity is with regards to what kind of incentives are going to be provided.
Right.
New York City has a program. They're calling themselves the City of Yes. To me, I've worked in New York City for about 14, 15 years in real estate. It doesn't really seem to be a city of yes to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I could be wrong. I would like to be wrong.
Right.
I would like to see the city become a city of yes, because they're saying if we do become the city of yes, we do provide tax incentives in Midtown South between 23rd to 41st Street, between 5th to 8th Avenue. They're promoting this idea of FAR being changed to 15 or 18 up from 12, which means that buildings could be 50% larger in certain cases. This applies if you're converting at least 51% of your property. So it's not applicable across the board.
Yeah.
But it looks as if New York City is trying to promote this idea. And Mayor Adams has said that their goal is to allow conversion of up to 100,000 units in the next 15 years, which is drastically needed.
Yeah.
We have a housing shortage in New York City. I laugh when I say this word with regards to New York City, but the term quote unquote affordable. They say they want to potentially make 20 to 30% of the 100,000 units quote unquote affordable. Like I said, I laugh at that term because affordability in New York City is relative. So we'll have to see how this all plays out.
Yeah.
So there's a tremendous opportunity. However, we need incentives. We need possibly tax increment financing, which we're seeing in Chicago.
Yeah.
We'll need greater FAR, which Mayor Adams has proposed the Midtown South area may adopt. We potentially need just straight up money, like the city of Calgary was given $75 Canadian dollars per square foot to promote the idea of conversion. If we can somehow get New York City to provide that, that helps. And then the last part is, which is the trickiest, is will there be new owners that come in that are able to purchase at a basis, which means can they buy this low enough so that spending $100 million plus to do these extremely difficult projects actually makes sense.
Yep.
So there's a lot of headlines saying this is what we need done, but I can tell you it's very challenging. You definitely need to have vision, and most importantly, you need a lot of capital.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you sort of addressed our question then about sort of cities or regions seeing potential and sort of the factors like tax incentives and other things that create those opportunities. So let's dive more into this concept of the built environment that you mentioned. Define that for us and sort of talk about, how that's going to contribute towards this sort of transformation in the office market.
When I look at what the built environment is, to put it very simply, is it's our surroundings. When we walk through a city and we look around, that is the built environment. And what we're going into right now, from my view, is that this is and could be the greatest opportunity that we may ever see in our lifetime to completely transform the built environment. As I shared with you before, most of our cities are made up of 60 to 70%, depends on the city, but for the most part, office space. My perspective that I provide to some of our clients that are looking at larger scale projects is, I personally feel, and this will depend on city to city, we need a makeup of approximately 30 to 40% office space, 30% residential. And when I say residential and office, we may even have an overlap between the two. So it could be 30% office, 30% resi, and then 10% being a hybrid, where we have buildings that have an integration of residential and commercial.
Makes sense.
And then the rest of it being play. So have you heard of the term live, work, play?
Yeah, sure, of course.
So what I like to say is our cities are moving in the direction of live, work, stay, and play. The stay incorporates the idea of a hotel. Hotel space is super important in the 21st century and is going to play a bigger role in our cities as we move forward. So this movement of live, work, stay, and play is not here to quote unquote stay, but it will get bigger and bigger and bigger, where we're now seeing that in neighborhoods, communities, and eventually our cities are going to evolve to be live, work, stay, and play cities. So from the context of looking at the built environment, if we're able to successfully take some of the office space, and look, we've got close to 1 billion square feet of office space vacant in this country. Out of 5 billion square feet that we have in this country, close to 1 billion is vacant. That is a lot of office space. And let me tell you, there's a very small percentage, less than 2% of that has now been converted. You may see headlines, but it's so small.
So
the movement has barely started.
That brings up a good question. I feel like we hear mixed signals on this show and with different people that we're talking to about the adaptability of office buildings into, I mean, typically what we're seeing in the headlines is multifamily, right? But you mentioned hotels as well. And what's your take on how adaptable these buildings are? Like, can that transformation, is that transformation realistic that you're referencing?
We work with several architecture firms quite closely. And there's one in particular that we work with that's done a pretty in-depth study over 1,000 buildings.
Oh, wow.
And from the studies, we've seen I think about 1,300 buildings.
Okay.
And from the studies, we've seen approximately 25% can be converted and would be good candidates for conversion.
Okay.
However, I think about 5 to 10% as of today are financially viable. Which is why I suggested to you that what we need is we need a lot of help from the cities in order to actually get this job done in the next 20 to 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you mentioned some of the other sectors, but tell us more about sort of the ripple effects that exist as office changes, how that
Yeah.
impacts other sectors.
I look at this, again, this may be a little out of left field, but I look at this as an opportunity for us real estate professionals to facilitate the possibility of achieving happiness in this lifetime. And again, I know it's a little bit out of left field, but hear me out.
Yeah. We're with you.
In the pursuit of our daily lives, through our work, through our interactions with family, through interactions with colleagues, through our acquisition of material items,
Yeah.
through day-to-day interactions with the built environment, what are we truly after?
Mm.
I feel that we're always working towards this idea of, if I get this, I will be happy.
Mm.
And all of us humans are going down that road. Some may call it a rabbit hole. Some may call it the never-ending journey. I believe that us as real estate professionals have the opportunity now to help facilitate that process for humans. And when I speak with clients, what I offer them is some of the perspectives as follows. If we're able to keep the following concepts in mind: home, convenience,
Mm-hmm.
comfort, experience, and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
I'll repeat it again. Home,
Mm-hmm.
convenience, comfort, experience, and well-being. If we're able to take those concepts and integrate them into the way that we're designing our buildings, neighborhoods, communities, and eventually cities, we will then enable, I feel, the facilitation of achieving happiness in this lifetime.
Okay. So given that, like, what's the, how, my question is twofold. How do you get from here to there? And then what is that, like, utopian setup of a downtown? Because a lot of people might listen to this and say, like, I am after happiness. That sounds great. I didn't think I was going to find it in downtown New York or downtown Philadelphia. So, like, how does that play out in the sort of downtown built space environment? Like, what's the vision? What is it? Help us bring it to life for our listeners.
Well, definitely they will not find the happiness by looking outside. For me, happiness is definitely found within. However, I know what you're asking.
Yeah.
And what I feel in us potentially facilitating that process that I mentioned, we will make life more enjoyable, more convenient, more joyful for humans if we design our cities taking this context into mind. And one of the ideas that we're proposing to the industry is the adoption of a concept that we call central living districts, rather than central business districts, right, which have been designed around the concepts of money, business, and work, right? And we all know that relying upon money, business, and work to achieve happiness is a very difficult process. Why can't we design our cities around home, comfort, and well-being? And if we take those three major components into consideration, we will go very, very far, I feel, in achieving that goal. And those central living districts are very much, I defer to you. Do I have time to talk a little bit about the central living districts?
Sure. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. The central living districts are, and this is a very, very deep topic. I've done a lot of speaking on this, so I'm going to give you a quick 1-minute overview on it. As I was saying, it's designed around the concepts of home, comfort, and well-being. Ideally, I see this as a breakdown in the built environment of 30% residential, 30% commercial office, 10% hybrid, and then 30% play. And what we want to do is make life much more convenient for humans on this planet, so that everything which I think is a lofty goal, but let me cut that back a little bit. 80% of all of our lifestyle needs are accessible within 15 minutes of our home.
Mm-hmm.
There's this concept of the 15-minute city. Have you heard of that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if we can design our neighborhoods, communities, and cities to be extremely convenient so that we can possibly live these lives where everything's accessible within 15 minutes, I feel what we'd be doing is freeing up ourselves. Think about the number of hours we could free up in a day and what we could potentially do with it. Yeah. And like I said, it's a much deeper topic. I won't go into all the different types of uses that we would integrate into a central living district, but that's the quick 1-minute overview.
Right. Yeah. So you're referring to a world where we want to live in the same area where we work, and we, we're our lives are just simply more convenient. Because right now you have a lot of downtowns, or for the past however many decades, people come in, they go to work, then they leave, and that makes sense. I get it.
All right. Yeah. Well, Amit, we covered a lot of ground here and a lot of interesting concepts. I certainly feel like I have a lot to think about. But so we want to give you the opportunity now, circling back to where we started, to write your own headline for the space. And I'm really eager to hear what you say because you have so many unique concepts. What would be your ideal headline about office or the built environment or your central living district? Whatever way you want to take it, the floor is yours.
This is the greatest opportunity that we will ever have to transform the built environment and reimagine life on planet Earth.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
I like it. I guess, is there anything that you think we didn't touch on? I feel like this conversation was bigger than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. But is there anything that we didn't touch on that you think our listeners should be thinking about or curious about or know about you?
I'll go with the second one, I think, if I remember correctly. And I would encourage your listeners, if what I'm saying with them resonates in 2025, to really start spending time thinking about areas of your life that you want to eliminate. And don't just think, but actually do. Take action to eliminate what you do not want to spend time on anymore. And that does include people. Unfortunately. And see what happens on the other side of it. I've done this exercise many times in my life, and the clarity and the lightness in my energy field that I experience is mind-blowing.
I love that.
Great advice.
All right. Well, Amit, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was enjoyable. Thanks for offering this opportunity. It was great to connect with you both.
Yeah, likewise.
This podcast is a production of Gregory FCA. If you enjoyed our discussion, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts